Here's a really quick rundown of some 3D prints that I use to help get images out of microscope objectives when using a camera for high magnification photography. In my case, the camera is a Sony a6400 mirrorless camera. The main thing that these are all based on is a custom universal flange, 54 millimeters. It's just the first reasonable diameter that I chose that seemed to make sense. And this integrates with a storage system, a mounting system for finite as well as infinite microscope objectives. And also I was newly testing out a adapter to go on my phone to work with the 113 millimeter focal length camera lens that exists on my phone. The last thing I'll cover as well is I attached a Mitutoyo microscope objective to a polarizer that rotates, that also fits in between here on this universal adapter that I have to be able to do cross-polarized light photography with the microscope objective and rotating it fairly easily while it's mounted. I won't go too far into how to get an image with a microscope objective, but some basics that you may or may not know are that you will run into finite microscope objectives as well as infinity corrected microscope objectives. The infinity ones are right here. In this case, this finite microscope objective requires no other optical elements in between the shoulder of the objective and the sensor, which is situated at a fixed distance as the image forms there and focuses there, whereas an infinite microscope objective sends out parallel light rays that are not focused to a point and require a tube lens of a specific focal length, say 200 millimeters or 180 millimeters can be fairly typical, that will deliver the image by being focused to infinity, picking up those light rays and focusing it on the camera sensor. One thing to note is the focal length ratio between what it was designed for and what tube lens focal length you're using will affect the magnification that you're getting on sensor. So if this microscope objective was at 50x and I was using 100 millimeter focal length tube lens, I would get half the stated magnification if this was designed for a 200 millimeter focal length tube lens in the first place. I'll really quickly go through the finite microscope objective holder. I have, in this case, flocked it for stray light by adding a non-reflective material that will cut down on non-image forming light from contributing to haze on the sensor or loss of contrast. I will change this around a little bit. For right now, I have this mounted to an M42 adapter. I won't change that. I actually really enjoy using M42 because I can use M42 to Sony E right here, account for the correct distance, and get a very secure mount that is also metal, and I can print in 100% infill for this, so it has some heft to it. It's not heavy by any means, but I will experience no vibration here. So things I'll optimize here is I'll probably introduce a really quickly slip-in baffle right here that will constrain the image that is seen by the sensor to only the path at that point of the objective light that is image forming that is being projected onto the sensor. I will also maybe play with making this tube a tiny bit bigger, since that would give a little bit more space for light rays to go off away from where they can be visible to the camera sensor itself after it's baffled. So the other thing that I enjoy about this is with a custom, very simple flange like this, I'm able to do things like obviously not have to unscrew and screw these in, but I can add a different amount of recessed amount for the objective if I want to get the back of the objective glass very close in the case of using a tube lens for the infinity objectives, infinity corrected objectives. Sometimes that is desirable for certain objectives, but I can also block off, in this case, the BD illumination path right here, which would normally contribute to extra haze or loss of contrast if you were not using that imaging, illumination modality, but had not blocked it off. So I just have it permanently mounted when I'm not using any episcopic illumination to this flange, and it sits in a case as these other ones do, that that uses a very roughly cut condiment bottle from the dollar store as a clear side. This just goes in here, and with just a few twists, I have a very secure case for my objectives. Now I've also been really quickly playing with a mount for my phone, since it has a 113 millimeter focal length tube lens, and I've gotten some interesting results. The last tidbit I'll show is that I have a circular polarizer attached here behind this objective. There is a tiny bit of slop inherent to the actual polarizer itself, so I'll try to design around that at some point, but it was more of a proof of concept. But changing out an objective is as simple as pulling it out, putting the new objective in, and doing a little bit of a twist. And because those threads are so big, it's not hard at all to mount a new objective. And in this case, I now have something I can twist around as well for different polarizations. I think that covers everything. Hopefully this is useful to someone or gives them some ideas. I'll try to post some files for the prints if anyone else wants to make any of these. They've been working really well and have been affording a lot of fun experimentation and cost cutting, certainly for storage. Saved me some time from having to hunt down a bunch of different sized cases for sure. Let me know. Thanks.